Hello, greetings. It's May 7th, Thursday, May 7th. Welcome to my live. A couple minutes late. I almost forgot about the live. But I gotta come and see who's here. So let me find out first where you are zooming in from. It's early yet, so we only have 22 people here. Des Moines, Iowa. New Ipswich, New Hampshire. Abby Yandel said they're grateful for this community. I'm grateful for you too. Western North Carolina and Lake Lure. Still recovering from Helene. Uh-oh. Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Holt, Michigan. Nova Scotia. Sister Canada in the house. Greetings from Cecil County, Maryland. So happy to be here. And hopefully my mods are here. So if you let me know you're one of my mods and you're here, I will give you a shout out. We got Douglasville, Georgia, another Ontario, Canada, another Canadian. Besties in the house. Kansas, San Diego, Missouri, Nova Scotia reporting for duty. I love it. I'll put that up there because that's funny. Another Ontario. Love all these Canadians. Fresno. I had a girlfriend who was from Fresno. Seattle. I'm going to be in Seattle next week. I should have that information. People were asking me. So I'm doing some talks next week in Seattle, and some of them are open to the public and some of them aren't. But there is one I'll announce one. So we'll do some announcements at the beginning, give people time to get here. It's 95 people here. Hershey, Pennsylvania. Oh, here's a mod. Thank you to Mary Blue Raven for being a mod. I appreciate you. We got Honolulu in the house, New York City in the house. This person's got discount Easter candy. I want some. I love candy. Blacksburg, Virginia. I love especially chocolate. And Toronto. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. It's a little bittersweet for me, Mother's Day, because it reminds me of my mom who I lost. So this will be my third, because right after she died, there was this will be my third Mother's Day without her. All right, New York, Canadian, yeah, Indianapolis, Orlando. Okay, I'm going to pull up my event. I'm going to put it on a post, I think, so people can find it. So there's an event I'm doing on Friday, May 15th. It's called Persistence Projects, Intuition, Activism, Art, and the Intellect. It's 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at University of Washington. Oh, it doesn't have a location on here. There is a QR code. So I'll put it in the post. So if you're in Seattle and you want to come, you could come to that one. And then I'm also speaking at a conference, which is open to the public on that following week. But the thing is, you have to pay the registration, I think. And the registration is crazy. It's like $150. It's one of those conferences for people who are doing professional development in, I think, mental health. And I'm going to be speaking on two-spirit identity. So, but I'll post this one that's open to the public at the University of Washington in Seattle. I'll post it on my posts on my channel, so you can find it there. And then I'll put it on my Instagram too. All right. Oklahoma's in the house. Oh, Abby, you wanted to be a mod, but it didn't work. Okay, I think Abby. I didn't mean to put you up there. To put you as a mod, I've got to go over to YouTube and do it that way. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to try to add you, Abby, while I'm doing other stuff. See if I can multitask. But yeah, I got to make sure I got the volume off so I can add you. Okay, so today, um, I've been really busy today, and so I haven't, um, okay, Abby, I just added you as a mod. So I don't know what's going on today in the news. So if you have any questions for me um, about the news, I'm just going to be tuning into them without really knowing anything that's going on in the news. Sometimes that's the best way. So, and I'm trying to think of some of the current issues that I can go over and kind of review. Some of the things my guides have said include the conflict in Persia. I did see something recently about this haunting virus, let's call it, this ghostly virus that people are talking about. And what else? The terms of mid, the ever changing map drawing contests that are going on. And then I'll just take suggestions from you for whatever it is you want me to talk about. And I'll take your questions and I'll just be tuning into them. And I should warn you, we're going to be interrupted at a little after 5 because my photographer is stopping by. Tell me if you like my new profile pic on my channel. That's my photographer. I just paid for headshots. I've been winging it all this time. I finally decided to get professional headshots, and I'm quite happy with them. All right, Minneapolis as well. Okay, so maybe I'll just start with questions instead of talk. Usually I talk at the beginning, and oh, someone said Frozen. I think when I go to another tab, I freeze, so I won't be doing that anymore. I just did it that one time to add Abby as a mod. So thank you, Abby, for being a mod. And so I'm going to mostly focus on questions today, I think. Oh, I just got someone said my profile pic is gorgeous. Isn't it? I love it. Thank you. He did such a good job. His name is David England. He's really talented. He was really good at getting me comfortable and like posing properly because I don't really like taking pictures. Okay. So I'm just going to start in on some questions, I think. Well, I did want to make some announcements. So let's have a little bit of time for me to talk about some things that I should be talking about, which I don't do enough of. So, I don't do enough promotion, right? I come on here, I talk, I tune into things, talk about what my guides are saying, but I don't spend enough time doing promotion. And so I have this book, The Ethical Psychic. Where's my book? Of course, I didn't bring it over here. I have this book, The Ethical Psychic, and it came out a couple of years ago. And it's gotten good reviews. People really like it. And so I just want to ask if you've read the book, if you could review it, like go on to Goodreads or go on to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and do a review of it. Whatever you thought of the book, just review it. Because the more reviews I get, the more the algorithms push it out so that then other people can buy it. And the more people that buy it, the more ethical psychics we will have in the world. So I was really inspired to write that book. My guides, I feel like they kind of channeled it. Like I wrote the whole book in, by hand, in longhand, in a notebook, the first draft of it in a few weeks. And I wrote it because I had been practicing as a psychic and a healer, and I had been teaching a lot of classes on psychic development and healing. And, because of the way I've been trained, I always talk about ethics. I always talk about things to be aware of, red flags to look for, how to keep your clients safe, how to keep yourself safe, how to make sure you don't take advantage of anybody that's coming to you for help. And I always talked about that. And what my students would always say to me is, oh, no one else ever talks about this. Like our other teachers don't talk about this. And some of them would get annoyed with me. Like, you're always talking about this. And I would say, look, I'm trained in a particular way. I had different teachers. I had indigenous teachers. I had Afro-Caribbean and Native American teachers. And in those traditions, in most indigenous traditions, no matter where you are in the world, your teachers are always going to focus on things like character. Like, it's really important to have a good character. It's important to be humble. It's important to defer to a higher power to get guidance. It's important to, always be thinking about, before I say this to my client, is it going to harm them in any way? Just because I know it doesn't mean I should share it, right? So there was all these things that I was taught, as a psychic and as a healer by the different teachers I had. And so I brought that to my teaching, and I noticed that a lot of people, just weren't getting that education. And that's because things have changed, right? So it used to be, and it still is this way in some places, but I live in, Los Angeles. I live in the United States, and where I live in the current situation, it's very hard for people to find like a traditional teacher that they can go study with for years, right? And get that kind of traditional education. Now, of course, if you go, to certain places in the United States, you can find indigenous communities where you can still get trained that way. And of course, in other parts of the world, you can go and study with people and spend years studying. And when you do it that way, when you go through like an apprenticeship where you spend years studying with a traditional teacher, then they teach you all the ethics, and they also model it. Like you see how they operate, how do they help people, and then you learn that. And because we don't really have that in a lot of places now, depending on where you live and what communities you are or not connected to, I decided to write this book so that everybody, regardless of where they're situated, can have access to this information. So that's why I wrote the book. And let me see, I'm gonna go get the book so you can see it. The Ethical Psychic. All right. And so I want to tell you why in particular I'm talking about this book today. And this involves another story. So we're going to do a little bit of story time before I answer questions. Hope that's okay. Hopefully most of you like my stories. And I haven't told any lately, right? So it's time. So right now I'm working on a new book, and it's called Medical Mystic. And it's a book about how, what's wrong with healthcare and how we can improve it by adding medical intuition to it in an integrative way, so medical intuition as integrative medicine. And for those who don't know, I'm a medical intuitive, and I spent many, many years practicing as a medical intuitive. And now I mostly teach medical intuition and write books and do this. And I don't see clients right now. But I'm trying to teach a lot of other people to do what I do so that we can have more medical intuitives in the world. Because I think if we have more medical intuitives, it's going to be a better place. More people are going to get answers to their medical mysteries. So that's the book I'm working on. So in the past, the other books that I've had published, I've been fortunate in that, people have approached me. So like this book, I had a student who was published with this publisher, North Atlantic Books, and she told her publisher, "Hey, my teacher's working on a book. I think you should check it out." And the editor reached out to me and said, "Send me your manuscript." And fortunately, they really liked it. And so I got a contract. Now, it's not that easy to get a contract normally. I was just, very fortunate, right? Spirit led. And, my other book, it's an academic book, so it's not as difficult to get. I mean, it's difficult, and now you have to go through lots of reviews, but you don't need an agent. But the book I'm working on currently, I think it's meant to be a commercial book so that it will reach a lot of people, because I actually want to change. I want to change healthcare, in the U.S. I actually want to improve healthcare. So my book is like all my other books. It's a paradigm changing book. I'm trying to, suggest a complete paradigm change. So it has to reach a lot of people. So I decided, I have to go the traditional route and get myself a literary agent. I never had one before. It didn't stop me from getting published. But I thought this time I'm going to get a literary agent and go that route so they can get me published on a really big publisher so I can reach a lot of people and change everything. So that's my plan. So I started sending out queries to literary agents, and I got into a dialogue with an agent who said, she loved my book proposal. I sent her a sample chapter and she said she loved my writing and she loved the idea. But she said that my last commercial book didn't sell enough copies. And so now I have to start promoting this book more to sell more copies so that the agent I get one day will be willing to take me on, because if they don't think you've sold enough copies, then they're afraid to take a risk with another book. Anyway, so that's why I'm bringing up the book is if you feel so inclined to, if you want to support me on my journey to get yet another book published, consider buying this one or having your library order it. That's also a sale. Like you could just go to your library and ask them, hey, can you order this book? So that's my little promotional segue. And also, if you are someone who knows somebody who's a literary agent, and you want to whisper in their ear, hey, I know this person who, is probably, you don't know yet, unless you've already read my other books. Is a good writer. And then I'll send them my stuff and they can evaluate it. So I just, this agent I was talking to, she told me to do this. She told me that I should mention it on my social media, and maybe, it'll work out this way. Yeah, she told me that the economy is not great right now for publishing. And so that's why they're requiring more sales. Like I have a huge author platform. I have good writing. I have a good idea. I have a decent amount of sales. I thought I was doing well because statistically, I have more sales than 99% of books. But it's still not a bestseller, right? All right. Oh, so here Diane says she's got Ethical Psychic in print and audio. Thank you, Diane. Please write me a review. Oh, here's another person saying they're going to order the book. Yes, Dr. Domenico, it does talk about mediumship. So, I'm a medium. I'm a medical intuitive. I'm a psychic. I read the Akashic records. I do past life regression. I'm a Reiki master. I'm trained in prana healing. I do intuitive healing, energetics. I'm trained in spiritual healing. So in my book, I tell a lot of stories and I give examples from all of those different modalities. And so I do have like a whole chapter. Let me tell you, I have a whole chapter called Working with Spirits and Soul Paths, where I'm talking specifically about things like possession and portals, the risk of opening portals, the risk of getting possessed if you're doing mediumship and you haven't taken the right precautions. I talk about ethical concerns when you're doing energy healing, when you're working as a psychic, when you're working as a medical intuitive, when you're working as a medium. I cover all of that in the book. Here's another person who's gonna order the book. Oh yeah, and Toddy Gem says, oh, you should do another collab with Linda Grinnell. I did one with Linda G, the Comanche Psychic. We did we need to do another one. Yeah, exactly. The economy, Abby, is not great for 99% of humans. So publisher is just one other group, right? But, the books I write, they're books that are guided, where I'm being guided by my guides to put these books out to change things, for the better. Kindle version count, I think so. Any sale. So you can get it in paperback, audiobook, or digital. I think Kindle is the digital version, right? It's still a sale. A sale is a sale. Oh, and here's someone doing the right thing. Oh, here's the actual link in the chat to buy it off of Amazon. If you don't want to use Amazon, you can get it on Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Bookshop, which is independent bookstores online. Okay. Oh, and Ina is asking about self-publishing. Self-publishing is a whole lot of work that I don't have time for. When you self-publish, you have to do all your own book design, editing, marketing, and self-published books rarely reach as many people as traditionally published books because, as an individual, I don't have the same marketing know-how and, staff. So that's why I'm not going that route. And I think I'm going to tell some more stories today. And in addition to answering questions. And here's one of my mods telling you to click the like button. Okay. So I'm gonna alternate between answering questions and telling stories today. Okay. So I'm gonna tell a few stories. So first, here's a question. I'm gonna tune in again. So for those of you who've been following me, you know that my guides told me a while ago that the midterms. I got to use my special language, right? The terms of mid won't happen. And they didn't tell me that like this is a terrible thing that's going to happen and it's going to be devastation. The way I understood that information was that something big was going to happen before that was going to be bigger than the terms of mid. And so I saw it as it's not a good thing, but not as bad as it sounds, because of course, if we don't have the terms of mid, that's really like the death knell, right, of our democracy, So, we really need to have them. And of course, when we have them, if we have them, then we know it's a complete blue wave, right? And then everybody gets arrested and everything gets rolled back, right? That's what we know is going to happen. And so the circus is so afraid of this that they're trying to do everything they can to cheat, right? So that's why they're, passing legislation, why they're having map drawing contests and, all kinds of nonsense. So let me tune in right now and see if this has changed, if I'm getting anything different today. And we have in here right now 328 people. Thank you for being here. I didn't really announce this live in advance like I normally do, because I was really busy today. I did a guest lecture last night in a class, and then today I was recording some materials for the Shift Network, and I totally forgot that I had a live coming up. So sorry about the lack of notice. Hopefully other people will notice it's going on and show up if they didn't get the announcement. All right, tuning in. What about the terms of mid? Anything new that I'm getting for that? So what I'm sensing right away when I tune in is that there's just a huge demand by the people. Like the American people are, they're like so many American people are counting on the terms of mid. Like this is the only thing keeping them going. This is the only thing that's allowing them to survive everything we're going through. Like I could just feel the energy of just like demand. The energy is demand. We demand the terms of mid. We demand the terms of mid. And so that's the energy that's in the country right now. And so there's no way, I don't see any way that like if they cancel them, that there's not going to be a huge reaction. So it's not like they're just going to illegally cancel them and then we're all just going to sit on our thumbs and be like, oh, well, that's not going to happen, because I'm just tuning into this incredible demand and expectancy. That's the word I'm hearing. The expectancy for the terms of mid is so intense and the demand is so high. That's why when I first got that intuitively, a month or so ago, oh, they're not going to happen, I was like, how is that possible? Like everybody is so laser focused on this right now. And every single contest that's happened since November 2024 has gone blue, right? Blue, 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 blue. Even red regions are now blue. And so we know where things are headed, right? It's not like the vast majority of the United States right now is opposed to this circus, the vast majority. And that was not the case a year ago. So we've had a really big shift in consciousness in the country among that group of people, of kind of problematic people who were circus promoters and circus supporters. A lot of those people no longer support the circus. Now, a lot of those former circus supporters aren't even going to cast a ticket, right? They're just going to sit it out. They've just turned into apathetics, right? But that's a very small percentage. And most of the apathetics, remember I talked about before how there's these three groups. There's the reds, the blues, the independents, and the apathetics. A lot of the apathetics are no longer apathetics. A lot of the people who sat out the last one are not going to sit out this one. Okay, let me see what else I pick up about the terms of mid. Your question is, are they happening? Are they happening? So I'm like seeing all of these people behind the scenes in the circus who he just keep having the same conversation over and over, saying we cannot have the terms of mid. We cannot win them. There's no way we can finagle them this time. We cannot do it. So, and then there are other people who are saying, no, we just have to keep jimmy rigging certain things. Like we'll take away, mail-in voting, and we'll redraw the maps, and we'll take people off the roll, make other people so they can't put a ticket in. And like there are people behind the scenes of the circus who think that they have figured out a way to finagle it. Like last time they finagled it with satellites, right? With Starboy. Well, they can't do that this time because everyone's onto them, right? And also Starboy is no longer in their corner. But they're like trying to figure out all these other machinations. Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. But then there are other people saying, no matter how many of those things you do, the writing is on the wall. The groundswell is so big now. Like the reason that they were able to get away with the finagling in 2024 was because there was just a certain percentage that they had to have to, that they had to put in things to make it look like it went a particular way. There was a certain percentage. And that percentage now is so much bigger because now people aren't putting in tickets for anybody. They're just putting them in against the circus. So right now, people who are going to go to the contest, they don't even care who's running at this point. A lot of people just want the circus out, and that's all they care about. And the people in the circus know that. Not everyone, but the people who are intelligent, the few people that they have working for them who are actually educated and intelligent, there aren't that many, but there's a few. Some of these like corporate CEOs, they are paying attention to the data because their money is involved. And they can see the writing on the wall that there's absolutely no way for them to win and no way for them to finagle it. No matter what they do, it's just too many. There's too few people who are voting, who are going to choose the circus. And so that's the conversation we're tuning into. And so what I see is going up between now and November, and even not even November, like between now and the next couple of months, there are more and more efforts to finagle that are more and more obvious. And that just causes that demand by the people to grow and grow and grow. And to get to kind of a dangerous place where you can't stop it. You can't stop it. And so what I've seen in the past is what I think I'm seeing now. Let me just double check that. What I'm seeing right now. Okay, so it has changed. So in the past, I had seen a couple of scenes. I had seen people kind of storming the House of White. I saw the ex-Magatonians with the pitchforks and the tiki torches storming because they were upset. But then I also saw the resistance, right? The persistence, which is not with the pitchforks, but just a more peaceful storming. And what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing more of the peaceful, less of the rabble rousers and more of the peaceful, but peaceful demand. So like millions and millions of people showing up at the House of White and refusing to back down. And, it can go either way because, they are also showing me like the 6th of January, what they did, right, with the violets. Um, and that's one way it could go, because the demand is so great and the crowd is so big that it can go. It's a demand though. Like there's going to be a demand. So I know I still haven't answered the question, like, is it happening? Because I'm just answering based on what I'm getting. I've already answered this question in the past. So I'm tuning in now to see, has the answer changed? So far, I'm not seeing a change in the answer. The answer I got before was no, but I'm just trying to give you the bigger context. Something very big happening before then. So I'm also seeing states, I'm seeing joust officials in different areas who are still like setting things up for the contest. And at the same time that they're doing that, there are like circus barkers from the Capitol saying, we're not going to let you. We're not going to let you have these terms of mid, right? But both things are happening at the same time. Like the states are like, no, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead. And then the circus is saying, no, you can't. We're not going to let you. And so I see that too, this kind of back and forth. So I think I'm going to stop with that. I think I've given enough information about that question. I hope that was helpful. So I'm going to tell a story now. Okay, what's my topic? I don't know. Okay, I'm looking at your questions. And then also trying to think of okay, yeah, what's going on in Tennessee? People are talking about Tennessee. Oh, okay. So according to Betty K Creations, Tennessee voted to make it completely red. And that's why they gutted the Voting Rights Act too, right? The Voting Rights Act was specifically passed to address hundreds of years of discrimination that made it impossible for Black people to vote. That was the whole point of the Voting Rights Act. And so now they're trying to undo that. And that specifically targets Black voters. Why? Because Black voters, 92%, right, of Black voters voted against the circus. So of Black women voted against the circus. So this population is really reliably blue, right? Very reliably blue. And so that's why they're going after that community. I think I'll tell. Oh, I know. I wanted to tell stories about my mother because it's coming up to Mother's Day. So my mom was a psychic, but unlike me, she didn't ever like fully embrace it to the point where she could actually make money. And that's important because she always struggled financially. And I look back on her life and I think, if only she had asked people to pay her for her readings. And this is part of this is a larger problem when it comes to psychic work. There are people who think if you're a psychic, you should just work for free. If you're a healer, you should just work for free. As if they don't know that healers and psychics also have to pay the rent and buy food and put gas in their car. Like we all need money to live. But there's kind of that attitude, right? In certain communities, and that, oh, if you're a psychic healer, you should just give it away. And so all her life, my mom would do tarot card readings for people and not charge. She would do astrology readings, and she would do these really intense readings. I mean, she would, I think at a certain point, she occasionally would charge, and she even worked for a psychic hotline briefly, but she hated it because she said she felt like, they would only let her speak to the person one time, and then they could never call back and ask for her again. And she always felt bad for these people. She said the people that call psychic hotlines, a lot of them are depressed. a lot of them are going through really serious issues. And it just made her so sad that she couldn't make sure they were okay. But she would do these like 10-page astrology readings where she would combine Vedic astrology and Western astrology and do these amazing charts. Um, and and she didn't, she always had she was a secretary. She always had a low paying job, and she just did that for people for pretty much for free most of the time. And she was really good at it. So when I was a little girl, I was identified by my mother and also by my great grandmother as the person in my generation who had the gift. And so my mother used to take me into the front room, and we do little ceremonies together. And she tried to teach me how to read cards. And I didn't really pay much attention. I do know how to read cards now, but I never got to be as good as she was because I was less interested in the cards. Of course, now that she's passed, I'm more interested. That's how it is, right? But she, one of the things that she taught me, I dedicated this book to her because, she was the one that she was always warning me about the dangers of this work. And she didn't want me to do this work. And she was always worried about me, that I was going to be harmed by doing psychic and healing work. And so she was always warning me. And I think that all those warnings really, were a big part of why I ended up writing a whole book on, how to be very careful when you're psychic, how to be very careful. You protect yourself and you protect your clients. Her name was Michael, my mother. Thank you for the white light from my mom. Okay. So I'm gonna answer some questions now. Thank you everyone for being here. We've got 480 folks in the room. Looks like we lost some people from my story. They're like, we just want answers. Okay. Okay, here's a question. Artists and oracles. What about all the reports of disclosure happening this month? So, about a year ago, I was talking to star beings, and they were all here. So they actually all showed up right after the big joust in November. Our whole planet was surrounded in, I think it was like December or January. And what they originally told me was that the Galactic Federation was a little bit concerned about Earth because Starboy had finagled the results so that the outcome was not what the people chose. And in that way, he had interfered with our future. And they said that it really was, strictly speaking, a violation of like the Prime Directive, because Starboy was working with some star beings, some nefarious star beings who were trying to get control of planet Earth. And their workaround, so there's like a Prime Directive where you can't directly interfere with the destiny of a people. If you're from a different planet, you're not supposed to interfere. But there have been a lot of workarounds. There's been a lot of sneakiness. And so one of the workarounds is to create these hybrids who are technically humans, but they have either a spiritual connection or a physical connection to a star system somewhere else. And as a result, sometimes they will align themselves with the agenda of a different star system. And they told me that Leon Starboy was one of those people, and that he had this agenda. His agenda was really not, his agenda was for world domination, and his agenda was influenced by these star beings that he's related to. And so what all these other star beings were telling me was that this was not technically a violation of the Prime Directive, but it was dangerously close. because the fate of our world was being really heavily influenced by beings from another world. And so they were all here. And I was very excited back then because I was like, oh, they're finally going to have disclosure. They're finally going to come down here and help us. We need help. But, they don't want to interfere either, right? And so they were only coming here to make sure that the other ones weren't interfering too much. That's what they told me. Now, they also will come here to interfere with any threats of Newtonian warfare. And so they've also come here, and they've been around a lot more lately because of the conflict and because Head Clown wanted to use Newtonian weapons. He was willing to and wanted to, and other people stopped him. Now, he won't be allowed to because the Starbase, every time there's an effort to do that, they stop it. So from my perspective, it's like, okay, just had someone drop something off. From my perspective, it's imminent, right? And so now there are other people saying, oh, disclosure is coming. Well, what has changed is that the circus itself is now saying, oh, we're gonna disclose a bunch of information. And so they're talking about disclosing a bunch of government information. And Brazil has already done this. I don't know if you've been following it, but Brazil just, I think last week, released like photographs, video, all kinds of information about UAPs and UFOs, and aliens, whatever you want to call them. And so I think that's really exciting because maybe there'll be a lot of different countries that are going to be doing this very soon. But let me tune in to the question. I wanted to give that background first. Yeah, so I am seeing people getting up on microphones and on TV in public places, making announcements, sharing information. And it's kind of gonna backfire, because part of the motivation for the circus to do this is to try to distract us from, the coup. They're trying to distract us from what they're doing, of them trying to cancel the terms of MID, of them trying to, take over lots of government systems and replace them with corporate systems, right? They're trying to distract us from the files. But it's going to backfire because what disclosure does is it raises the consciousness of the people, and it causes the people to ask more questions and to kind of elevate their focus. It doesn't distract people. It actually adds to our sense of sovereignty, our sense of wanting to be autonomous people who control our own destiny. So actually finding out about other beings being here is it's going to make us even harder to govern. Impossible to govern. And so I think this person is asking, is it happening this month? So you mean, is it happening in May? Is it happening in May? So I'm just asking that question. Timelines are hard to get because you think you've got one and then it changes. Time frames. I mean, you get a time frame for something and then the time frame changes. I'm getting that expression, something's got to give for May. And so, I got, earlier, I got that something really major was going to happen at the House of White when the apple blossoms bloomed. And when I looked it up, it says the apple blossoms are blooming between April and May. So something really major is happening at the House of White this month. And I don't know if it's all those people storming it. And that's why I feel like maybe their efforts to cancel the terms of MID, whatever they're trying to do around that, is only going to accelerate the movement of people to make demands and to demand the circus get out. And so when I just now when I tuned into disclosure, I got that expression, something's got to give for the month of May. So I asked you a question, is it happening in May? Is disclosure happening in May? And so when I the way I interpret that phrase, something's got to give in May, it's like it's got to be one or the other, right? Either the people are going to storm the Bastille or the star beings are going to land and reveal themselves, right? Like something major energetically is going to give way this month. So like give way, you think like a dam and all of this water, putting pressure on a dam, and then the dam gives way, right? It breaks. That's where we're at energetically. Like there's all of this pressure building right now, and it's building in May. And it has to go somewhere. Like this energy has to go somewhere. It can't be contained. And so there's more than one way it can go, but something very, very big is happening this month. And it just feels to me like it could go a couple different ways. Like either all of the people storm the Bastille and demand, that the circus get out. Like there's some kind of storming, some kind of demand, major demand, like I just saw earlier. Or there's a revelation about the star beings, and then that accelerates a demand. So it's either them trying to finagle the terms of mid, or it's the star being information. But it almost doesn't matter what the precipitating event is. It's going to give, right? That's like what I'm getting, is that the energy is there, and we're just like one flick away from, this is it. Like when you're playing Jenga, pull that last one out. That's where we're at. May is that last, and it doesn't really matter if you pull this one out or this one out or this one out. No matter which one you pull out, the jig is up. And that's what it feels like this month, whether it's disclosure or it's the terms of mid, something like that, or it's the economic impact of the conflict in Persia, right? Because that's another big thing, right? That's going to trigger people to make demands, right? The economic situation. All right, so here is a gift. Thank you from Dr. Domenico for your $9.99 gift. Happy Mother's Day to your mom and all moms and all amazing female figures. Would you be willing to ask your guides about if the oil crisis will look similar to 2020 lockdown due to no gas? Okay. I'm supposed to be alternating the questions with the stories, right? So before I answer this question, let me think of another story I was going to tell you. Let me see. So many stories. All right, I'm going to wait. I'm going to tell a story after I answer this question because I'm not sure what story to tell, which usually never happens. I have so many. Okay. So oil crisis. Will it look like the 2020 lockdown? So, I guess one way to look at that is one of the things that happened during the 2020 lockdown was that everybody had to stay home, right, to prevent the spread. And so everybody had to work remotely, go to school remotely, and talk to all your friends remotely, right? Although I did have a birthday party in the park. We were 6 feet apart wearing masks, but we were outside social. So there were ways. But and so we can certainly see parallels, right? If there's no gas and people can't get to work, they have to work from home. Kids are going to have to work from home, right? You can see the parallels logically. So let me tune in. All right. So the first thing I see when I tune in is like oil spilling, which is interesting. Why do I see oil spilling? Um, so, in the past, it's reminding me there's been all these oil spills. Like when I lived in Florida, we had a big oil spill that was really damaging to the environment. And um, I was a part of a movement for climate change in Florida, and we formed this whole climate congress. And so there was I don't know who organized it, but I was just a part of it. But there was this climate congress that was formed, and they invited people from all over the state, from different organizations, different activists, and we all came together in the Capitol. And the fun thing about it was that we met in the Congress, like in the state legislature, and it was this really fancy, Capitol building with these really fancy leather chairs that swiveled and these desks, and we were sitting in the state legislators' desks in this big room, as if we were a Congress, and we were a climate Congress, and we proposed bills, we passed things, we debated, and we were trying to change the future of how Florida dealt with the environment. And this was really heavily spurred on by this giant oil spill. I think was it Exxon? This was maybe about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And I was a professor at the time at a university in Florida, University of Central Florida. And so I went up to the Capitol, and I was a part of this climate congress. And we were trying to do things like get state subsidies for solar power and move to green energy, and also doing cleanup of the environment from the oil. And so, this is all coming to mind when I tune into this question, because I'm getting like oil spill, oil spill. And it's reminding me too of the Iraq conflict, where we burnt oil fields. We burned a lot of oil. And so let me just, what else is coming up about this? So there's some kind of oil spilling happening, or oil burning, or oil destruction. Like right now we're thinking of it in terms of like, blockade, or, like the oil can't travel, right? And so the price is going up. But what I'm seeing is oil destruction. So that the supply goes down, not just because of transportation issues, but because of destruction of the actual oil itself. And I am, getting to your question of lockdown, but I'm just getting it. I get the information the way I get it. So I got to share what I get, right? And so I'm seeing that. And I'm looking at the Bermuda Strait. That's what I call it. The Bermuda Strait of H. Because ships go in, but they don't come out. All right. Have a little fun with that. So when I'm looking at the strait, I'm seeing a lot of stagnancy. I'm not seeing any movement. I'm not seeing any change. I'm just seeing all these ships just stuck there. And so I think that the destruction of oil might be something that our clown does. That would make sense. Like as a desperate act. Oh, we're just going to destroy the oil if you don't let us have it. Which is like, it's something that a child does, right? If you won't let me play with your toys, I'll destroy your toys. Now no one has toys. But that's like what a child does in a temper tantrum. They don't think it through. And so I do see some acts like that, like acts of sabotage to destroy some oil. And so let me see if I can let's go down the timeline down to the future and see, how does that impact us? Now, one thing that I've already been told about the way it impacts us that I've already shared, that I'll just share again, is that it is going to accelerate us towards green energy. Aha. Now I see why they showed me the climate congress. They wanted me to make the connection. That climate congress in Florida was held as a direct response to a crisis. the oil spill. So it accelerated the conversation. And that's what's going on now is this problem with the Bermuda Strait is accelerating the urgency of our need to move away from fossil fuel to green energy. And this is something they didn't think through, right? So Head Clown has been trying to destroy green energy since he got into office. He's been removing contracts, taking funding away, trying to force, he's been opening up drilling off the shores of places where it was outlawed. He's doing all of this stuff to try to push things in the direction, backwards to fossil fuel, because all of his cronies, right? They're all trying to make money. And so they thought they were going to be able to do this, but this Bermuda Strait thing really is changing the game. And people are going to really push for green energy. It's actually already happening in Europe. They've already passed something like in the last couple of weeks to accelerate the move to green energy. So that's one of the things that's going to happen. But I am still asking, how does it impact? Does it look like a lockdown? I'm not seeing that, because this is a different situation. So when I ask, about that, here's the difference. In that situation, we were all isolated. And it's very hard to make change when you are isolated, when you are not working with your community. And the really terrible thing about the pandemic was that we were all forced to isolate from each other and just be in our houses, right? And that was just so alienating and so, lonely and so difficult for us. This is a different scenario because we're not forced to isolate. And so we can actually choose differently. And so what I'm seeing is that we have other options. And one of the options is to work together. So like carpools, helping each other, coming together, pooling our resources, sharing our produce, sharing our farm plots, our produce from our little gardens. Like we have an opportunity this time to deal with this differently. And I see that happening. I see the problems with oil and prices of food and fuel, going up, are going to accelerate our sense of community, togetherness, unity, collaboration. And, part of that is desperation, right? Like I've told the story before of the hurricane I was in Florida, where during the hurricane, we didn't have access to, there was no gas, there was no food, there was no ATMs, there was no cell phone service, there was no electricity, and people had to make do. And what people did was they all started coming together. People started to share their food. People started to give other people rides. If they did have a car that had gas in it, people came together. And that's what I see happening. So I don't see the same thing happening with the lockdown, because this time we have choices. We don't have to stay in our homes for our safety. But some people aren't going to have gas, or some people aren't going to have food. But we have a different option this time. We're going to be able to help each other out. We couldn't do that during the pandemic because we had to isolate. But now we can help each other out. And so that's what I see happening when the economy gets worse and worse. I see it getting closer and closer. Okay, now I'm going to have to interrupt and go answer the door in a second. So I want to take a little break here. Oh, here's another person who likes my profile pic. Thank you. All right. So I said I was gonna. Oh, look! Someone just bought my book. Yay! Someone just bought my book. I've been asking people to buy the book. But I'm just gonna go over your comments for a little bit, for a minute. So much for the Fire of Cease. He just started again. Yeah, we knew that was coming. Um, oh, yeah, that's a question. Thank you, Dr. Dominic. I can tell a story about medical intuition and COVID. Um, and I'm gonna yeah, so when the lockdown happened, I that was the first time that my guides started to tell me that I needed to start doing precognition. So I've always had a precognitive gift, but I've never cared for that gift. I have a lot of gifts, but just because you have a gift doesn't mean you have to use it. And so, and that's because when it comes to precognition, we often are seeing things in the future that are bad, like dramatic things. That's oftentimes how precognition works. You see people dying, right? So when I was 12, I had a premonition about my cousin dying, and then we got the call the next day that he had died. And, or you get a premonition about, I had one about a house burning down, right? Like it's like bad stuff. And so, um, and so, it's not a popular gift. And I was never a fan of it. But when the lockdown happened, my guides were like, we need you to start doing precognitive work publicly. And so I started a podcast, Journal of a Medical Intuitive, during the pandemic. And I would go on there like maybe once a week and would give predictions about the virus, about, the future of it, about the state of the country and whatever was going on related to it. And so you can go back and listen to those podcast episodes if you want. They're still up on whatever podcast you use, Apple or Podomatic is what I loaded them on. You can go listen to them. And a lot of them did come true. Not all of them. I'm not 100% accurate, but a lot of the things that I said did come to pass. And my guides told me to do that because I said it would help people navigate difficult times. And that's why I'm doing it now. As soon as the challenge happened, I was once again told by my spirit guides, you need to start doing precognitive work to help people navigate this difficult time. Okay, so I got to take a break because it looks like someone's showing up at my door. So I'm going to take a little break, and you guys can talk amongst yourself in the comments, and then I'll be right back. David. So I ended up live now. Okay, I'm back. Some people probably left. That's okay. Okay, so okay, here's one of my mods reminding you to buy me a cup of coffee if you want, and that QR code. All right, so back to my story. So I was telling a story about the pandemic. So every week they would give me information about what was going on. So things like they gave me information about how the virus was being transmitted. Because remember, early days they didn't know, like they were just trying to figure it out as they went along. Like we don't really understand this virus, and so I would get intuitive information about the virus, and then I would put it on my podcast, and then I was watching Japanese news. Remember, we weren't getting a lot of news, but Japanese news. I had this Japanese channel that I was watching. It was this free like cable channel that the place I was renting came with this free channel, and the Japanese were reporting on the science like every day, scientific information about the virus. And so I would get information about it. I would share it on my podcast, and then I would watch these science reports And I would also go online and look up scientific research. And then I would read the scientific studies about what the newest discoveries were about the virus. And then I would report in my podcast, hey, the science just confirmed what my guide said, that it's transmitted in this way. Or like, what, I can't remember all the stuff I said, but I can remember one thing. One thing my guide said was that this virus was replicating at a faster rate than all previous versions of this virus. And not replicating, mutating at a much faster rate. And then the science confirmed that. And so there were different things like that I was getting. And I think that people found it really helpful to hear my podcast talking about the bigger picture, like why this was happening, what the significance was, the impact it was having on Earth, on the animals, on our own consciousness, right? And so that was back in 2020. And then after that was over, I didn't do any precognition until November of 2024, when my guides again said, okay, it's time to do this work again, because people need you to give them the big picture to help them navigate these difficult times. And so that's why I'm now doing, precognition again. Okay, so now let's look for another question. So I'm alternating between telling stories and answering questions on here. Got 500 in the chat. I think I lost quite a few people when I disappeared for 2 minutes. Oh, somebody who I know is in here. Redbird. Hi, Dr. Vesh. We were at Berkeley at the same time, and I was there when you received your vest from Dr. Jean Molesky Paz. What vest? And the algorithm brought us together. I don't remember what that vest is. So Berkeley, I did my PhD at Berkeley. So this was back in the 90s. That was a long time ago. Okay. So Mary Ann is saying everything really changed in the pandemic. It's never been the same. Yeah, it really changed. Oh, here's someone saying they just bought my course. I have a few courses, so I'm not sure which one, but you probably bought Strategic Psychic, because that's the one I've been promoting of late. But I have a medical intuition course, an Akashic Records course, a course teaching you how to read auras, and Strategic Psychic course. And then I'm going to have a live course on the Shift Network at the end of June on medical intuition, advanced medical intuition for treatments and referrals and modalities. Okay, so I'm just looking at your comments. There's a lot of people talking to each other, which is nice. Hey, we got Chicagoland in the house. I'm from Chicago. So when I was young, I lived in Old Town, which is like the artsy, hippie, jazz, blues area. And when I was growing up, it was lots of immigrants. So I went to grade school in classrooms where just a wide variety of people were in my classroom, which was really nice, because I didn't experience the hardcore racism until we moved out of that area and into a different area. Oh, yeah. So people were having conversations while I was stepping out onto the porch for a minute. Okay, so here's a question. I've seen a couple of people asking about this ghostly virus, we'll call it. Oh, wow. Okay, before I get to that, I just saw something exciting from Dr. Domenico. Okay, first I got to post this for everyone. I got to put the comments on the stage. I forgot. Lotus Queen wants the DNC to release 2024 report that they previously refused to regarding release comments on social media. I read had people acknowledging. Okay, I can't understand this sentence, but I am excited about the idea that she's demanding that report. So if you guys don't remember, there was a report done, an audit of the joust that was supposed to tell us, some things about it. And the Blue Hats actually suppressed its release, which is really shady. So I'm excited to hear that she might be asking for its release. Okay, but let's back to this question. So the question is the ghost virus. Is it passed through people? Yeah, they actually already know that it can pass from people to people. So it used to be it was only passed from, I think, rodent feces. If you accidentally touched some rodent feces, you could get it. And it's mutated. And now they're saying it can transfer from person to person. But it doesn't transfer easily, is what I saw. They were saying you had to be. I saw someone who seemed like she had some actual knowledge about it. She was in the field, like epidemiology or something. Now I can't remember the word. You know the word I'm talking about, where they study disease processes in populations. And she was saying that it's not easily transferred from person to person, that you have to kind of be sharing an enclosed space with another person for several hours before you can get it. It's not like they just walk by you and, breathe on you once and you get it. So the reason people are so concerned about this virus, well, the main reason is because of what we went through in 2020, right? We're concerned about all viruses now. We have PTSD about the whole word virus. Like, if anyone says anything about a virus, we get scared, which makes sense. But what's also particularly scary about this ghost virus is that it has a 38% mortality rate. And for context, the coronavirus had something like a 5%, maybe even less. I can't remember. Someone correct me in the comments. I think it was less than 5%. So what that means is if 100 people get the coronavirus, only 5 of them are going to, lose their livelihoods. I'm being careful. And this is for entertainment purposes only. This whole thing, this whole conversation. So 38% would mean that if 100 people got it, 38 would pass over, right? So that's huge. That's scary. And of course, we have that cruise ship where 3 people have already perished. And then there's been a couple of other people who left that ship who are in other places who have also gone into hospitals. So of course, people are really afraid about this. So let me tune into it. I already answered your question. Oh, but I think there was another question that other people had, which was just, do we need to worry about this virus? And when I tuned in the other day, I got no. Well, let me just tune in again right now. It's got a terrible name, doesn't it? The haunting virus. I mean, it just sounds bad. At least the other one had kind of a pretty name, Corona, like that beautiful thing around the sun, right? We got fooled though, didn't we? All right. Ghost, we're going to call it the ghost virus. So like I'm being shown that ship, right, where people are on the ship and they're not supposed to get off the ship. And then some people did get off the ship and now people are trying to track them down and trace them. And so I was shown that, and I was shown like there are certain situations where people are in enclosed spaces. And that's a very unusual situation, right? Where you're in this enclosed space, the same people 24 hours a day for 7 days, right? That's a very atypical situation. That's not true for the rest of us, right? We don't spend 24 hours a day for 7 whole days with 500 of the same people, right? 500 strangers, right? We don't do that, or 100 strangers, whatever. I think there's like 100 on the ship, right? And so what they're showing me is that there are certain situations like that where people are in enclosed spaces where they're kind of trapped, where something like this can become a problem. But these are very rare, rare situations. Um, and and so like they showed me a military boat where you have these military who are all on the same boat, living together, working together, um, for days and weeks on end. Um, like the cruise ship. And so that's like a situation where, yes, if you have somebody with the ghost virus in that situation, it's going to be bad, right? Because people can't get away. And it's got a 38% rate of offing. Um, so, but that's not the situation that we live in, most of us. And so I feel like right now it's not really a major threat. But what's interesting about when I tuned into those enclosed spaces, I got that those were like intentionally curated situations, and that like the circus is creating certain situations right now in the Bermuda Strait, where they've got all of these people kind of stuck, right? And so that's the only scenario where I see it being an issue, is these kind of um, created created crisis, right? So like the crisis in the Bermuda Strait was created. It's not a natural crisis. It wasn't inevitable. It wasn't a natural crisis. It was created by the circus for a particular purpose. And I feel like the same is true with the ghost virus, that it's only going to be an issue if these fake crises created, right, for a particular purpose. And so I'm not really getting enough information to know, is the circus trying to create a panic specifically around the ghost virus? Because I wouldn't put it past them. We got 536 people in here. Thank you for being here. But I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that. But I am getting that the current fake crisis was created by the circus, and that the current fake crisis of ships being stuck, just bobbing like apples in the Bermuda Strait, that fake crisis is the type of opportunity where a ghost virus could proliferate, because they're stuck. They can't go anywhere. They can't get off the ship. They can't, they're stuck. So my answer to the bigger question, do we all need to worry about the ghost virus? No, most of us don't have to worry about it. Most of us are not in situations where it would be an issue. But people who are in those situations, like some of the military, I am concerned, especially if we don't resolve this Bermuda Strait issue. All right, so let me tell a story. I'm alternating between stories and answering questions. So let me tell a story about how I used to try to keep the fact that I was psychic hidden, and how I failed. So when I was in graduate school, let's see, at this point I was in my master's program. And I went to Howard for my master's, and I was studying history. And I wanted to study African spirituality in the Caribbean, like spirituality in the Caribbean that came from like tradition, like indigenous African traditions that had been brought over here and then survived slavery, right? They're called like African cultural retentions. And I was really interested in that. And so I was looking to like, where could I go to study that? And my advisor at the time said to me, "Hey," my advisor at the time, her name was Linda Haywood, Dr. Linda Haywood, amazing scholar. She's gone on to win awards and publish all these books, and I don't know, she's done a lot of amazing things. She's a Trinidadian American historian, and she was my advisor. And she said to me, "Oh, I heard that there's a professor in another department in anthropology who's going to Jamaica, and she's looking for a research assistant. And so I recommended you to her because you're a great scholar or whatever. So you do a good job." And so she said, go meet with her." So I did. I met with her and she hired me, and I got this job going down to Jamaica, working as her assistant, her research assistant. And so we get to Jamaica and we're staying, on the University of West Indies campus. And it's my professor, it's some other grad students or some undergraduates, and then some undergraduates from the University of West Indies and some professors from the University of West Indies. There's a whole bunch of us on this research team. And almost as soon as I got off the boat, right, as soon as I landed on that island, everybody seemed to know that I was psychic. And I never told anybody. But Jamaicans, they can see you coming. In Jamaica, in many of the islands in the Caribbean, and in much of the world, there's much more of an understanding and acceptance of psychic phenomena and other world activities and spirits. There's more acceptance of it, and there's more conversation about it. Like in the United States, we have a very kind of dogmatic, anti psychic, anti ghost, anti ET, kind of public discourse where you're not supposed to talk about it. People call you crazy, or they say you're not an intellectual if you talk about those things, right? And that's just not the case in a lot of other places. A lot of other places have open conversations. And so in Jamaica, there are a lot of healers, a lot of people who are mediums like me. And so they recognize their own. As soon as I got off the boat, practically people were, I guess they were telling my professor. And she was doing research on folk medicine, Jamaican folk medicine. And so she had been to the island for many, many years. And she had, been around people like me. So she knew who I was, even though I didn't want anyone to know. And so she kept saying to me, "Oh, everyone here knows that you're a psychic." And they had different names for me. And it wasn't necessarily psychic, but they had names for me like, "Oh, you can see duppies, you can see spirits, you can, like we say psychic or medium." They had other names, but it was all the same. I'm like, "Yeah, we know you're one of those." And I was just like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." I kept denying it, right? Because I was trying to be on the DL. I was like, "I'm an intellectual. I'm not one of those people. Like, shh, keep it quiet." So one night we're walking across campus, and it's a bunch of us, my professor, a bunch of the other, students, a couple of professors. We're all in a group walking. I think we're going to dinner or something. And my professor is trying to tell everybody there that I'm a psychic. And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't know why you keep saying that." And fool that I was, I decided to prove her wrong with a non-demonstration. So I said to the group, "Hey, if I was psychic, I could just," and I could just point to those street lights and make them turn off. I don't know what possessed me to say this. And you know what happened, right? As soon as I pointed to the street lights, they went off. Case closed. So I had to shut up after that. So there's a little story for you. That's called telekinesis, when you can make things happen with your energy. You don't have to be psychic. That's just a certain kind of psychic ability. I was overstating my case. Spirit wasn't having it. Okay, so Sharon 5892, $10. Thank you so much for the gift. Will healthcare ever be affordable in all states, not just blue zones? Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, here we are. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I pushed a button and I was gone. Um, that was weird. I don't know what. All right, so back to the question. Um, will healthcare ever be affordable in all states, not just blue? Okay, hopefully I'm back. Can you see me? Am I back yet? So I see a lot of people saying she disappeared. Am I back? Uh-oh. Can you see me? Someone said the lights went out again. I guess that was to emphasize the story, right? I turned off the lights. And just now I turned off the lights. That's funny. Sometimes spirit does funny stuff like that. Just, my guides are really funny. I don't know about yours, but my spirit teacher, they're really funny. They're always clowning me. Um just why I try to keep it light. When you're getting serious information, sometimes you got to keep it light. So I see you. I love this. I see you. Oh, I'm gonna tune into this question now. Spirit just, I mean, looking at you and it just disappeared. And then they go all the way back into the studio. It was weird. Question here. So I'm just going to tune in and see what I get about this question about healthcare. Yeah, healthcare is a mess. It's because of the corporations. And just for some backdrop to this, based on other things my guides have said, the whole agenda of the circus right now is they have corporate sponsors, right? So there are a lot of corporations, tech bros, whatever, who sponsored the finagling. They funded it. They funded the finagling to get Head Clown in, and they did it because they have a vested interest in replacing government institutions with corporations so that they can start making money off of basic services like mail and phone and health. And so their plan is to get rid of healthcare so they can replace it with for-profit everything. So that's their goal, right? Their goal is to make it worse and worse. But I'm trying to see if there's, something new coming down the pipe with that. Is there something new coming down with healthcare? I'm having a hard time with this question because it's really depending on so many other questions. So let me maybe talk about the bigger picture that this is a part of. We're in this kind of pivot point or historical point right now where we've encountered those two roads diverged in the woods, right? The fork in the road. And in one direction is us finding a way to reclaim the federal government, right? Which we've lost to this soft coup, right? And the other route is to break up into regional countries, right? Where states form alliances and we no longer have the United States, but we have maybe other configurations. And so when I try to tune into this question, I'm getting stuck because I'm stuck with which way are we going? Which way are we going? These are both possibilities. And either way we go, things are going to be radically different. And so I feel like I can't really answer this question because this question is making a lot of assumptions about certain things being in place, like the federal government and the Affordable Care Act. And I'm not saying they're not going to be there. I'm just saying that when I tune in, I'm being kind of bombarded with all of these question mark about so many of the foundations that healthcare is based on. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, and then I'm going to tune in again. So I can tell you that healthcare is dramatically changing. That's part of why I'm writing my book, Medical Mystic. healthcare is dramatically changing, but is health insurance dramatically changing? Is your question. So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a whole lot of like doctors and healthcare professionals and researchers who work on health coming together in these different like conferences and conventions to talk about radical changes that are going to be made in the healthcare industry. And so that's what I'm seeing. Not seeing insurance in the conversation per se. So I'm just trying to see what can I get on this. Um, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say I can't really answer this question because when I try to tune into it, there are too many moving parts that have to fall into place before health insurance changes. And so this is going to give me a moment to just make a little comment about um, psychics, ethical psychics, because your psychic that you're consulting with, whether they're a medium, a psychic, a precog, they should sometimes say to you, I don't know, or I can't answer that question. And if they never ever say, I can't answer that question, I would be a little suspicious because we don't all have the ability to get all kinds of information. That's just not the case. Nor do we all have the ability to get all kinds of information all of the time. Some of us are only allowed to access certain information because of whatever our life path is. Some of us can only access certain information because of the limitation of our gifts. Some of us are only going to access certain information because we're being guided that it would be harmful for us to share things with the public. And so if you encounter a psychic who answers questions and always has an answer for everything, I would just be a little suspicious. Okay. So yeah, I can't answer that particular question because there are too many moving parts that I in part don't want to get into about the direction that we may or may not be going as a country and what our institutions are going to do in the future. We're at this pivot point right now where a lot of things are in flux. Some things are very clear to me and other things are very much in flux, and that's one of them. But what I am getting, to just kind of keep it positive, is that I am getting that there is going to be a lot of progress in healthcare in general in terms of, and we're already seeing that. So as soon as like our circus left the WHO or left something, we left something. Someone correct me in the comments what we left. We've seen just in the last year so many discoveries being made in the health field. And it seems like maybe the removal of the United States from these international bodies has freed people up to go ahead and share these findings. Like it's like we were holding things back because we're so focused on profit. So our country is very focused on profit. I mean, we're not the only ones, but our healthcare system is very focused on medicine for profit. And that has kept certain cures from being distributed or made available to the people. And so so maybe I'll just talk a little bit about healthcare right now, because this is an area that I feel very passionately about, and it's an area that I've done a lot of research in, both as a medical intuitive and as a scholar and as someone who's writing a book on healthcare right now. There are a lot of diseases which can be treated or can be cured, which have not been in the past because it did not serve the interests of certain medicine for profit interests. And that's rapidly changing. It's already changing this year, and it's going to keep changing. And so while I can't answer the question about healthcare, what I can answer is that some of the reasons why we need so much healthcare are going to change, right? We are going to become healthier, and we are going to get answers to things. And I'm going to give an example that's highly controversial, but I like to say things that aren't necessarily popular, because it doesn't matter if it's popular, right? So I've been looking at trends in healthcare, and I constantly am reading um, scientific magazines and websites like PubMed or Science Daily or Science News, looking at new findings in health. And there's a lot of work being done in longevity, and there's a lot of things that are coming out that are really challenging some of our understandings about what causes disease. And I think we're going to have in the coming years more and more of these discoveries, which show that actually a lot of the epidemics that we currently have of chronic illness are easily fixed. And so here's the controversial part, the example, GLPs. Okay, GLPs have come out. There's all this controversy over GLPs. And the main reason there's controversy around it, I think, is because they were introduced as a weight loss solution. And we have a lot of conflicted ideas about weight loss in this country. We've developed a certain narrative in this country of blaming fat people for being fat and kind of projecting a lot of our shadows onto them. Like, oh, you're fat because you're lazy. You're fat because you're greedy. You're fat because you don't eat healthy. You're fat, and we've kind of projected, not just fat people, we've done it to a lot of groups, right? We've projected a lot of things onto Black people. You're all criminals, right? That's just shadow, right? People projecting their shadows. So we have that tendency to just project things. And so when this medication came out and it was sold as a weight loss drug, there were all these people who got angry about it, who were like, oh, we shouldn't make it easy for fat people to get thin. Like, they should have to work hard and struggle and suffer, right? There was like it's bringing up all this shadow work. But here's the interesting thing. If you actually follow the research on this medication, it turns out that this medication is a major game changer for heart disease. They just keep putting out studies showing that it dramatically reduces the incidence of cardiovascular events in the people that take them. And of course, it's also turning diabetes around, eliminating diabetes in huge numbers, right? And to me, looking at it from the perspective of a healer who's interested in trends in healthcare, I think it's very interesting that they found a mechanism that whatever it does, right, it adjusts like the way your body handles insulin. And just whatever they were able to adjust with that medication, it turns out that doing that is allowing all of these people to potentially be rid of all of these major chronic illnesses like heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes, right? And it's a sign of things to come, that there are some really easy fixes out there. There are some really little tweaks that can be made. And not to say that in the future, everyone's going to have to take medication all the time to not have these chronic illnesses, but it's a step in a certain direction of understanding that, hey, maybe there's a reason all of these people are struggling with their weight. Maybe there's a reason maybe there's a reason that diabetes impacts the vast majority of Native Americans. It's something like 70% of Native Americans have diabetes. Maybe there's a reason, that women who go through menopause almost always gain weight, right? Like there's all these things that healthcare doesn't currently have any explanation for. And now we just have this one discovery to tweak something with the insulin in the body, and all of a sudden it wipes out all these diseases. Well, this is a sign of things to come, right? That once we can remove the corporations from healthcare, once we can free science up to actually investigate more, once we have more women having input in healthcare, because right now it's controlled by a patriarchal, hierarchical medicine system, right? Once these things start to change, once other countries, scientists in other countries are allowed to share their research equally, and they're not being suppressed by Western scientists, we are going to see more and more discoveries like this that are going to eliminate diseases, eliminate cancer, eliminate diabetes, eliminate heart disease. And what's going to happen is it's going to shift our understanding of disease altogether. And we're also going to have what I'm arguing for is intuition coming into medicine, energy medicine coming into medicine, understandings of the holistic nature of health coming into medicine, bringing in the spiritual, the emotional. We're going to, in the future, we're not going to just be focused on either it's a physical problem or it's an emotional problem. And the way Western medicine currently defines it is it's a physical problem, it's real. And if it's an emotional problem, it's not real or it's all in your head. Well, that's not the case. All illnesses are real. They have different causes. So that was my soapbox about healthcare because I feel very passionate about it and I'm writing a book about it. All right, next question. Okay, yeah, I do agree that there is an obsession with thinness as well. And there's always going to be a percentage of people who abuse a medication, right? And take it for the wrong reasons. Oh, yeah, here's another one. I've been following this too, Mark Brisbois. Japan has discovered a drug that can grow teeth. And they actually already have it. I don't know why they're saying 2030 because it's already been developed. And the question is just like, how can we stop it from being suppressed? Like, how can we get it out here? And you know why it's going to be suppressed? It's because it's going to completely destroy the entire dental industry, right? If every time you have a tooth get decayed, you can just go buy this stuff and put it on your tooth and it fixes it. Because that's what it does. It fixes decay. It regrows teeth. It eliminates basically dental problems. Once that product exists, there's no more root canals, there's no more drilling for cavities, there's no more implants, there's no more dentures, right? That whole industry ceases to exist. And so that's why a lot of these discoveries are being held back because they're threatening whole industries. But yeah, there's a whole lot of these. Yeah, and so there's been this whole movement, Sharon, against GLPs. So, like, in fact, my governor passed something in California saying Medicare cannot pay for them, and yet lower income people have much higher rates of diabetes and heart disease and would benefit more if they were able to take this medication. They would not have those diseases anymore. But what would happen then? The whole diabetes medicine industry would go under, the heart disease medicine industry would go over, the weight loss industry would go, right? And so now there's all this pressure to make it so people can't get these medications. Okay, so I'm looking for more questions. Oh, somebody was just defining what a GLP is. Okay, I'm just looking for other questions. Yeah, our medical schools. This is for entertainment purposes only. I know I've been on a little bit of a soapbox, so I got to be careful. It's just my opinion. Go do your own research. Okay, here someone's giving some more evidence of this idea. Colleen Miller, ivermectin and fenbendazole are curing cancer. There's a cancer clinic coming to Florida. Yeah, so there is a lot of new research coming out. about different, what we thought of as incurable conditions. Okay. So a lot of people are in the comments talking about healthcare. And we're not the only ones. I mean, I talk about the US because I live in the US, and so I feel responsible for what we do. I'm not saying we're the only ones, but um, oh, look, someone just got my book, The Ethical Psychic. Yay! I'm really asking people to please consider getting my book. If you got it, please review it. Okay, here's a someone's put recommending a book, Cleanse to Heal. There has been some controversy around that person, so maybe I shouldn't put that up here. Yeah, I agree. Healthcare should not be an industry. We should just be taking care of people. Someone was making a comment about my book. Even Hay House, you have to have an agent. They don't take unsolicited manuscripts. So if you weren't here earlier, I was talking about how I'm trying to find a literary agent, and one of the agents I talked to said that she loved my book, my book proposal. She loved my writing, but that because my previous book didn't sell enough copies, they couldn't sign me because it's too risky. So that's why I'm saying, hey, please buy my my previous book so I can get my new book published. It's hard, it's actually sold a lot of copies for what it is, which is a very niche topic put out by a smaller press. It's sold over 5,000 copies, which is more than most books ever sell. But it's not a bestseller, and it needs to sell a lot more, I guess, if I want to get another book contract. So that's what that person was referring to. And yeah, Ozark Mountain Publishing put out all of Dolores Cannon's books, but that's just a little press that Dolores Cannon started, and it won't serve my purposes because my guides want me to be on a very big press. Like this press, I love this press, North Atlantic Books, but they don't have a big budget for marketing, and so they weren't able to do a lot of promotion of my book. I've had to do most of it myself, and I mean, they did promote it, but they just don't have the big money to do the big promotions the way a big publisher does. And I have to go that direction now because my guides want me to reach more people. This is funny. Oxford Cat, who I think you're one of my mods, right? Said that Michelle Obama described this time frame as janky. That's a great description of what we're living through. It is very janky. Interesting. Someone was talking about Tesla, and his papers were stolen by someone with the same name as the head clown, one of his relatives back in the day. But this person, Divergent Moon, is saying that the papers were released to his nephew. I don't think they would have. There's a lot of stuff I don't think they released because he had a lot of discoveries that they didn't want to come out. Like he had a discovery of free energy that they didn't want to come out. But that's interesting to note. They have a whole museum in Belgrade. That's from AI, so we don't know how reliable it is, but because they have hallucinations. Um, all right, so now I'm just looking for more questions to answer. Oh, okay. So here's someone sharing. I haven't seen this. Ivermectin and metformin proven effective against cancer in pets. Um, oh, someone's inviting me to a Minneapolis bookstore. There's a Native American bookstore there. That's awesome. I would love to come to Minneapolis. So if I get invited to give a talk, I will come. I'm going to Seattle next week. I'm giving 4 talks, and I'll post it on my. One of them is open to the public. 2 of them are open to the public, and I'll post it Some of them are private, like one's to a Native youth group and one's to like a group of healthcare professionals. Sharon's bought my book and she's going to review it. Yay. I need more reviews. Okay. Yeah, there is poison in the food. That is a big problem. Oh, here's a question. Okay, I was looking for a new question since I just got off my soapbox. Let me see how many people are here. 542. I think I lost some people during the soapbox. All right. So the question from Debbie Halansky. Do you think they will release the true joust results? Isn't it frustrating that we're still having to ask this question? It's been 18 months. We have This Will Hold and ETA who've been researching this and releasing data every month. They keep releasing new data. But then there's been such a suppression. Like there was supposed to be an interview with somebody from This Will Hold, and then something happened. So there's just been a lot of suppression of this story on social media. So let me see. Let's see if I get anything new. I mean, I'll just to answer this question based on what my guide said before. I was told from the beginning that the truth would come out. That's what I was told. And this is one of the problems with prediction is I got that prediction. And of course I thought it was going to happen soon, because why wouldn't it? I mean, it's time and it's time dependent. Like we need this information now before he destroys everything. But the question is when is it going to come out? So I got a while ago, yes, it's going to come out, but can't get a clear answer on when. So I'm just going to see. And, I'll just review some of the things I said in the past. In the past, I was told that he was going to admit to it, that he and or the other people that helped him to do this were going to admit it publicly. And I thought that meant that things would change, right? That's the logical conclusion. Well, he did actually admit it, and so did Starboy. They both in like interviews or whatever made reference to finagling the joust. And even though they did, nothing happened. And so that's another thing about prediction, is that you see something in the future and you come to a logical conclusion, but things might not happen logically. I would have thought that with him coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, Starboy helped me with with those computers," that would have had some ramifications, but it didn't. Okay. So I'm being reminded again of something else that I said before that I was shown before. It's showing up right now. That there are certain people in positions of power who are playing some kind of waiting game where they wanted things to get to a certain point where everybody was really clear how bad this circus is for us. And that once everybody was clear and the consciousness had shifted and the majority of the population was on the same page, that then the truth could come out without there being a sea war. So that's what they said before, and I'm just seeing that again. But the problem with that is, for most of us, it feels like we've gone too far. Like we don't need any more evidence that this circus is going to lead to the downfall of the entire country. Like we all know that now. It's obvious to most of us. And the thing is, if you're someone who has always seen that, and you're surrounded by friends who have always seen that, and you're on social media where everybody else sees that, it may seem like ridiculous that we're still waiting for certain people to wake up and realize this is the case. Like, how bad does it have to get? And so I've been feeling that way for quite a while, because my guides kept saying, you know, we have to do some things. It has to get bad before before we're willing to admit what's going on. Like, it has to get bad to a certain point where everyone realizes in nobody's best interest for him to be in office. And we keep thinking we've already reached that point, right? Like, weren't we at that point, you know, weren't we at that point before the conflict in Persia? Weren't we at that point when he alienated all of our allies? Weren't we at that point when all these people were being kidnapped and unalived? Weren't we at that point, right? Like, how many more things have to happen before we're at that point where the truth can come out? But that's what that's what I'm seeing again right now when I'm tuning in, is like the people who are in a position to take him out of that position are waiting for us to reach some kind of end point of no return, or like the edge of no return, not the point, but right on the edge of no return, where everybody can agree that, we're all going to be harmed by him staying in that position. And I feel like we've already reached that point a long time ago. But I'm being shown that the power brokers who are in a position to affect this change right now don't see that yet. They think, we could go a little further. Now, part of the issue too is that what I've been shown is that there's all of this negotiating going on behind the scenes among the power brokers, the overlords, the people who are actually in power. Not the political people in power, but the actual people in power, the people with the money, the people that control the global networks of money and trade and bad traffic and all kinds of traffic. And they're negotiating, because if they take this particular clown out of this role, they want to put a new clown in, right? They want to figure out, well, if we take this clown out, who can we put in? If the U.S. is no longer running things, then which country are we going to have run things next, right? Are we willing to pass the torch to, Saudi Arabia, China, Russia? Who's going to take over? So they've been having those kind of negotiations in the background for a while, because all they care about is maintaining their global power and keeping certain things in place. So and it feels, I got this before. I mean, recently I got this, and it's coming up again, that it looks like this point that it's not going to come out until he's out. Like, it logically makes sense to be in the opposite order, right? We should have it come out so we can take him out. But what I'm seeing is it doesn't come out until he's out. And, that doesn't seem to make sense, but that's what I'm getting. So my answer is yes, it does come out. But when it comes to timing, I'm not getting a clear, I'm just getting after he's out. It's almost like we have to be in that crisis of having no leader. Like, he's out, and then we have no leader, and only under those circumstances are people willing to tell the truth about, well, actually, these people never actually legitimately chosen, and so now it's time to shuffle the deck and start over. And So again, this whole something's got to give feeling that I'm getting from May, I get the kind of similar thing with the Joust results coming out. Like it doesn't come out until um, a new level of crisis of leadership is presented. A crisis of, we're already in a crisis of leadership, right? I get that, but what they're talking about is a crisis of no leadership. Like he's gone, and there's nobody in charge. There's nobody running things publicly. There doesn't appear to be anybody. And that type of crisis is enough to trigger this conversation about, okay, what really happened though, right? How did that even happen? Okay. Oh, I want to acknowledge India Juliana. Thank you for your super sticker. I appreciate it. It's time for a story. Oh, we're at 2 hours, so we're going to end soon. Yeah, I agree with Rabia Shana Shah. I think it's critical it comes out. Lotus Queen deserves better. I agree with that statement. I agree with this statement. They are making lots of money on the current nonsense. It's all about the money. Okay. Okay, I got to tell another story. I'm looking at your questions, and I'm also trying to decide if I'm going to tell another story. Here's a question. I'm just going to direct you to my class. So, what daily practice do you recommend to we boost our gifts? I have a class, Strategic Psychic, which will share that with you. It's inexpensive. It's on my website. But I like to only answer political questions during my lives, not personal questions. Because that's my life path. Like that's what my guides want me working on. Thank you for buying my book. Betty Creations, I appreciate you. Oh yeah, thank you to my mod, Abby Yando, for reminding people. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can hit that QR code in the corner. All right. Oh, here's somebody also helping you find my book. Thank you, Mary Blue Raven, one of my mods. Thank you to Rossi, who's also one of my mods. It's funny. I usually have so many stories I want to tell, and yet today I find myself just keep looking for more questions. Even though I usually just like to hold forth with the storytelling. Thank you for buying my book, Catherine Miners. If you're new and you're wondering what book, this is the book. Yeah, my answer. So here's a question from Rainbow Dragon Mystic. What a great name. Will sound vibration become a bigger part of healthcare or healing? Yes, it will. And it's also going to become a bigger part of everything. So it's also a big part of our history. So if you look at like the pyramids, they were built with vibration. They were built with like telekinesis and vibration and frequency. And in ancient times, there were people on this planet who knew how to do things that we don't know how to do. They were far more advanced than we are. Like the Africans in Egypt were far more advanced than we are. And the Tibetans were far more advanced than we are. The Mexicans were far more advanced than we are. So, but that knowledge is going to come back. It's going to come back to us. It's slowly coming back to us. And yeah, I even just saw a study. I saw some, because I told you I read all the medical studies, what's coming out, what research has been done, and see what medicine and science are doing is they're like very slowly catching up to what the psychics and healers and indigenous practitioners have known already, right? But because they've created a knowledge system that only allows things to be considered valid if they can be proven using the scientific method, that's the kind of path that as a society that we're currently on, where we've been very resistant to accepting any knowledge that's not verifiable using this one methodology. But what's happening is that more and more things are being found to be valid using that method. Now, all things are not going to, have to go through that process. Over time, we're going to evolve, and we're going to recognize that the scientific method is one very powerful method of validation, but there are others. We just don't understand that at this time, but we will. And so vibration can be used to heal, it can be used to move things, it can be used in so many ways. And there are lots of people who already know that, especially a lot of indigenous healers in different parts of the world. But that information has been suppressed. And for some of the reasons we already mentioned about, medicine for profit, but also it has to do with the conquest and colonization and racism, and just like, calling everything indigenous superstition, backwards, ignorant, right? And so this happened to Africans, this happened to Native Americans, it happened to indigenous people in Asia and the Pacific Islands, that when the Europeans got there, they just started brutalizing, taking the land, stealing the resources, enslaving people, and then outlawing their culture. And they very systematically replaced all of the indigenous spirituality and healing with Western religion and medicine. Now, it's kind of crazy that it happened that way, because if you look at history, Europe was far more disease-ridden than other parts of the world. And their medicine was like further behind than other types of medicine. So like when the Europeans came to the Americas, if you read the really early like conquest diaries, right? Like my people are in Florida, right? The Seminole, the Miccosukee, all the tribes in Florida. And like if you look at like these 1400s, 1500s diaries of these, conquistadors coming to Florida. Florida was heavily populated, and the indigenous people lived in large cities. They had very advanced farming. And what the conquerors said is, oh my God, these people don't have any illness. They don't seem to have disability. There are no cripples. There are no, the old people are healthy. Right? And they were baffled by this. And they were also baffled by the fact that the indigenous people seemed to have a lot of free time on their hands. Like they would farm for a few hours a day, or hunt for a few hours, or hunt for a couple of days a week. And then they spent a lot of their time dancing and singing and engaged in spirituality and right, making art. And the Europeans were baffled by that, because they came from a very oppressive society where people had to work as serfs or as, indentured servants. Like they had this very oppressive idea of work. And so the indigenous people were more advanced in terms of healthcare, but that didn't the Europeans who were coming, they were all about conquest and taking land and resources and getting rich and getting gold, right? And and so they just decided that they were superior people because they had more weapons and more of a drive to control others. And one of the casualties of that whole conquest of the Americas and of Africa was that a lot of traditional medicine was suppressed or went underground or was replaced with Western medicine. Now, in the continent of Africa, there is still widespread practice of traditional indigenous medicine. And in certain parts of the Americas, people are still practicing, right? It survived. People found a way to pass it forward, even though it was outlawed, even though you could be killed for practicing it. I had a great grandfather who used to practice underground, who literally had an underground facility where he would run ceremony, and it was hidden so that people couldn't see what he was doing. And that's what people did everywhere. They found ways to hide traditional medicine and then pass it forward secretly, right? Like the Mayan, everything was hidden for centuries. And then recently it's starting to come out in the open, being taught again. And this is happening with a lot of traditions. And so in a lot of these traditions, they had this understanding of frequency, that frequency can be used. That's why there's so much drumming and singing and chanting in a lot of traditions, right? Because that is how you use frequency, right? Healing ceremonies, they always have drums or dancing or singing because the frequency is healing. So that information is coming back. Okay, so I'm going to maybe answer one more question because it's getting a little bit long, 2:12. Oh, here's someone sharing another another tidbit. The European bees wiped out North American bees. All right, so I'm just looking for another question. Oh, you know what? I'm going to answer this one. Hey, thanks for purchasing my book, Come From Love. Just purchase your book. Will you do a book study or virtual workshop on your book? I should do that, shouldn't I? That's a great idea. Thank you for that idea. I'll have to figure out how to make that happen. Yeah, I should do that. When it first came out, I did have that idea. I was like, "Ooh, I want to have book clubs. I want to start book clubs in my book." And people were reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, we started a book club to talk about your book." And I was like, "Ooh, that's so awesome. I should try to, facilitate that." But I didn't because I got so much going on. But maybe someone else will. But I want to answer this question from Sharon 5892 because I think it's an important topic to talk about. So the question is, I know many talk about bringing up vibration. What does that mean? If one is severely depressed, it's hard to vibrate high, right? And that's so valid. It's so valid. Sometimes what happens is we get knowledge and then we have this tendency to want to simplify things so that we can kind of mass produce it and commodify it and share it, right? This is kind of the American way. And one of the strengths of the United States is that we're really good at bringing together a lot of different knowledges from different places and synthesizing it and having this wonderful kind of marketplace of ideas. And that's one of the strengths of our country. But there's a kind of a subsection of people, in part because of the profit motive, but in part just because of we live in kind of a culture that's really focused on commodification, right? That we want everything to be packaged for us and accessible and easy to understand and bite-sized nuggets. So an example that I like to give of this is yoga. Yoga is an ancient Indian philosophy, um, spirituality, and physical tradition. But what happens when it comes to the US? We just pull out the exercise, we pull out the postures, because that's simple, right? It's easy to commodify, it's easy to mass market, it's easy for someone who has not spent the time in India studying under a teacher and learning yoga in its entirety. It's easy for someone to just go and learn the postures, come to the US, start a class, make money, right? So this is what we did. We extracted the physical postures out of the tradition, and we didn't keep the philosophy or the spirituality, right? We just extracted the postures. And now in the United States, most yoga teachers are not Indian. They're not from India, and they're not people who've done any serious long-term study in India under teachers who know the ancient tradition. So part of that is cultural appropriation, but part of it is like this desire to get things in bite-sized chunks that are really easy to uh, access. And so this is what's happened with some of the, religious science and new thought and new age and thinking around vibration and energy and positive thinking and energy and moving, keeping your energy high, right? We're gotten to the point where we just kind of throw these ideas around. We say, oh, you got to keep your vibe high. You got to keep your vibration high. And we don't necessarily know what that means, right? When we say, like, even chakras, right? People talk about chakras. They don't even know what chakras are. Like, chakras, again, come from India. Ancient Vedic texts talk about chakras. And then the Theosophists went to India. They found a way to translate it into a way that was more accessible for the West. They brought it to Europe and the United States. And then that got, again, translated and simplified into religious thought, religious science. And now we just have we have this common speech now where we talk about vibration, but we don't all really know what that means. Right? It's just become a part of our speech pattern that we talk about. Keep your vibration high, keep your energy high. And so then we have situations like this where this person is depressed. And if they're talking about this person who's severely depressed, you can't tell a person who's severely depressed that they just need to raise their vibration, right? That's a very simplistic approach. So if you go back to the cultures where vibration and energy is discussed in the context of healing, you would never find that. You would never find like a shaman or a traditional healer or a Vedic philosopher in India going up to somebody who was depressed and saying, your problem is, your energy is no good, your chakras are out of whack, and your vibe's not high, and you just got to raise your vibration. Like, they would never do that. Instead, that person who's depressed would go through a very lengthy healing process. And the healing treatment, if you go to a tradition where energy is a part of healing, the healing process is lengthy, right? And it involves a lot of different things. So if someone comes to you and they're depressed, yes, as an energy healer, one of the things that you will notice if you are clairvoyant or clairsentient, you're able to read energy, you will notice that they're vibrating at a low level. And that's because depression is a lower vibration emotion than, say, joy or hope. And so it's true that they are operating at a lower vibration, but it's not true that that lower vibration is something that they chose or something that they can reverse by just deciding to, right? It's the result of a lot of things. So somebody who is traumatized or shocked or who starves or goes through warfare or suffers from grape or is imprisoned is going to have a low vibration oftentimes, because those are low vibration experiences that they were forced to endure. And so we've got to get away from thinking of vibration as something that has like a value judgment associated with it. And we have to get away from thinking of vibration as something that people choose for themselves, right? Because people who've endured trauma of different kinds did not choose the trauma. And oftentimes they're just surviving the best way they know how, right? There's a way in which some people kind of weaponize these conversations about vibration and blame victims and say, oh, you just need to raise your vibration. That's actually not going to help a depressed person, right? You know how you help a depressed person? You know how you raise their vibration? By loving them. That's how you raise their vibration. Love is the highest vibration of all. So the way that, if I encounter a depressed person, like in my practice as a medical intuitive, I know right away this person needs to be treated with love and kindness and compassion. And my bringing a very high vibration emotion to them helps them, right? And the more people that do that, the easier it will be for that person to rise up out of that lower vibration that they're stuck in. That's why a lot of ceremonies, healing ceremonies, involve a whole community, right? If you're sick, you're depressed, and you have 10 people sitting in a circle around you, all sending you love, right? And if you have 10 people in a circle around you engaging in activities that are sparked by joy, like dancing and singing, right? Praising you, telling you you belong, telling you how much they love you, telling you how important you are, telling you that they're there for you, that they support you, that they want to see you heal, that they want to see you be happy, right? That's what raises the vibration of that depressed person. It's all of those other people setting all of that high vibration, love, peace, acceptance, compassion, right? And so I feel like we have to remember that. We have to get back to that understanding. It still exists in many cultures, but when I say we, I mean like Americans, Westerners. Like, our culture is predominantly Western, and we're very individualistic, and we're very focused on ourselves, and we're very focused on hierarchies, and we're very focused on judging each other. And I say this as someone, I include myself in this, we tend to be critical, right? I find myself being critical, and I'm like, why am I so critical of people, right? Because I was raised that way, because I live in a culture that's that way, because it's the norm, right? When we grew up reading magazines that still exist today that teach us to judge women's bodies, right? Our whole media system teaches us to judge people's appearance. We're taught that people who have money are somehow better than people who are poor. We judge people who are poor. Oh, they're not doing something right. We judge people who are sick. Oh, they must not be taking care of their bodies, right? And like this person is implying, we judge people who are depressed. Oh, you just got to raise your vibration. You want to raise their vibration, do something kind for them. Be loving, show compassion, be of service. Right? Service raises vibration. When you're of service to other people, it will raise your vibration, and it will raise the vibration of the people you're serving. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, There's another part of the question I do want to answer, which is implied. I don't know if it's in here or not. How do we raise our vibration? Um, I also talk about that in my strategic psychic class. So that's another class you can take of mine. I talk about it actually in a lot of my classes. But there are things that we can do to raise our vibration. And one of the things we can do is to avoid people who lower our vibration. Right? So sometimes we have toxic people in our lives. Sometimes they're family members. And sometimes we got to cut those people off. Sometimes they're neighbors. Sometimes they're coworkers. And so sometimes the way we raise our vibration is we change our friend group. We change our community. We change our environment. And that might mean saying goodbye to old friends or going low contact with a family member. It might mean changing your place of worship or your hobby, right? And that's difficult, right? For a lot of us, it's easy to get kind of stuck in a routine of being around certain people, doing certain things. I know that I have found that I have certain people in my life where I had them in my life for a long time because I was comfortable with them, right? Like I've known this person for 20 years. They know me, right? Other people down the street don't know me, right? I'm going to keep talking to this person who's known me for 20 years because it's comfortable. I don't have to tell them my whole life story. They already know. But it can be difficult when you realize after knowing someone for 20 years that every time you're around them, you feel sad or you feel angry or you feel like you just feel your energy drop around that person. But you keep going back because it's like, wow, we're old friends, or well, it's my mother's cousin's, neighbor, or well, like we have some reason why we feel like we have to keep them in our life. But we can tell when we're around them, we feel exhausted or we feel unhappy. We can feel the energetic effects of their presence on us. And so this is one of the things that you can do to raise your vibration is to do a little culling, a little vetting, a little purging of your circle. Another thing, of course, is to make a list of all the things that bring you joy and just make that your job. Like every day I'm going to do one thing that brings me joy. I think that's hard to do for some of us. I know that I was raised to be focused on like hard work and discipline and success and service. And I remember at a certain point when I was in my, I think, 30s, I was trying to decide between the job I had and the job I was being recruited for. And I was seeing a therapist at the time. And she said to me, well, which job would make you happier? And I remember thinking, that's such a crazy question. Why would you ask that? Because what did I have at home? I had a list of pros and cons of these two jobs, right? Better for my career, better financially, better for what I was trying to do with my life, better for it being in alignment with my life purpose, right? It's a very logical, empirical list. Happiness was nowhere on there because that was not a priority for me. I didn't think of that as a priority. I thought everything else was a priority. And so I'm not the only one like that, right? There are a lot of us who we were raised to focus on other things: accomplishment, success, service, taking care of other people, responsibility, duty. And we weren't taught to focus on, okay, what makes me happy? And I'm not saying throw all that other stuff out the door in favor of happiness. I'm just saying put happiness on the list. Put joy on the list, on the to-do list. So I started putting joy on my to-do list. I was like, okay, every day I have my big to-do. Like I do this, I gotta do this. And then I would put on I'm going to do one thing that brings me joy. So like for a while, like one of those things was I like to do logic puzzles. So every day I would do a logic puzzle because I just love doing it. Or I'm going to go to the park every day because I love being in nature. Or I'm going to go, I'm going to do something once a day that brings me joy. Now that's something that we can all do that can help raise the vibration. Okay, so I think that was my last question. Was it? So we're at 2:29. It's probably enough time, right? Um, yeah, I think that's probably enough. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for your comments. If you can remember after you log off to hit the like button on the video, that helps the algorithm. So I appreciate that. If you're following me, make sure you're following me, because some of my mutuals have been saying that people have been unfollowed by accident. Like there's an out. I got to be careful how I say this, right? But something, let's just say some shenanigans are afoot that have caused people to no longer be following or subscribe to creators they thought they were. So just double check, because my count has been stuck at the same number for about a month, which isn't natural, especially because my likes keep going up and my subscribers don't. Something's afoot. So just go and check that. Or if you haven't subscribed before, subscribe now, or follow, or whatever the right word is. I always forget. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your coffees that you sent me, for your super gifts, super chats. And thank you for people. Some people Venmo me, and whatever thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for buying my book. Thank you for those of you who are reviewing my book. Thank you for writing me a little review. I did just see 2 reviews that were from followers, so that was exciting, because they actually said in their review, "Oh, I follow Jennifer Lisa Vest, and I read this book and I love it," or whatever. So that was cool. That was nice to see. So thank you for that. Thank you to everybody, and thank you for showing up for these lives every week. I will see you next time.